Hello and welcome to the channel. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Zwift. Today it's another night at the Zwift Fight Club. Yep, I still suck at that.
Yes, you do.
My team, Swedish Zwifters Bifrost, is facing the Down and Dirty Buteos team on the Muckle Yin. This is going to be probably the hardest club ladder race I've ever done. The opposition is extremely strong today. They are bringing 3 very, very good Category B riders and also 2 Category A riders.
Oh, you can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
So we're definitely up against it on a very, very tough course with lots of climbing. But hopefully we'll give a good account of ourselves. And if you're there at the end, you never know what can happen. As usual, we'll take a quick look at the competition today. We'll have a view at the course and then we'll get straight into the action. But again, serious underdogs today. It'll be fun to see how we do. In the blue corner, we have Proper Vikings. Hailing from Sweden, I present Team Swedish Zwifters Bifrost. In the red corner, we have... Wait, let me get this straight. Dad's Inside Riding Trainers? Introducing DnD Buteos. All jokes aside, this is a very, very strong team. As I put together the analysis you now see on the screen, I quickly realized that the Buteos team is better than our team in every conceivable category, from longer efforts to sprints. In other words,
we are in serious trouble.
To ensure I don't get too depressed, I am just gonna pick out a couple data points before we swiftly move on. If we look at the average velo score, there is over 200 points of difference here. That is significant to say the least. And, for example, if we look at 20-minute watts per kilo, their average of 4.4 is significantly higher than the best rider in this category on our team. I think I've made my point. We are serious underdogs, but we will not go down without a fight.
They say that it is hopeless.
Now, a quick look at today's course. The Muckle Yin. Loved by some and hated by most.
I hate it! I hate it!
This is one of my favorite courses in Zwift, and not just because I live in Scotland. I think it has a bit of everything. Some short punchy climbs, some longer climbs requiring more sustained efforts, steep downhills, and generally lots of places where you can try different tactics based on your team's strengths and weaknesses compared to the competition. In summary, I think it's a great course for a club ladder race. The key sections are of course the 2 main climbs, the Sgurr Summit North and the Sgurr Summit South. The com for the Summit South is, I think, a bit misleading, as there is a significant climb before the actual com that you really need to count as part of the overall climb. Of course, we go up the Corkscrew and the Breakaway Brae as well a couple of times, and the Clyde kicker towards the end of the race. With that, let's get the race underway.
Let's get ready to rumble!
As we roll off the line, I wanted to quickly discuss our team tactics for today. Well, we can sum up the tactics as hold on for as long as you can. Given the other team were stronger than us in any category we looked at, we were really struggling as how to approach the race. We could go for a team breakaway on, for example, the Corkscrew or the Breakaway Brae at the start of the race to see if we could drop a few of them. However, the likelihood would be that they would catch us and then counterattack when we were already tired and drop us instead.
Sounds positively suicidal.
We could try to go really hard on the first climb to see again if we could drop some of them, but the likelihood would be that some or all of us would get dropped instead.
Sounds positively suicidal.
So, we faced a bit of a conundrum here. For you watching, What would you have done in our situation? Let us know in the comments below. In the end, we decided to try to hold on and react to their moves. As usual, if a single rider went off the front, we would stay patient and then try to cover the next move. And when we got to the first hill, we would then try to do our best and take it from there. Wish us luck.
They are going to need it.
We pick up the action as we approach the small corkscrew climb. Up to this point, the pace had been high, and the Buteos team first sent their rider Tommy up the road, and he got about a 10-second gap. However, we didn't chase, and slowly we caught up to him again. Then they sent Mr. Aaargh up the road, and he also got around a 10-second gap. Again, we didn't bite. Rather, we tried to cover the smaller attacks from the other Buteos riders in the main group, and in general I think we're pretty successful at that. But as I said, the pace had been pretty high, and my average at this point was around 300 watts or 3.9 watts per kilo, so some fatigue was starting to build. Looking back at the footage, I can now see that a couple of our riders, Brian and Jan, were almost gapped on the corkscrew climb, so that certainly didn't bode well as we approached the Breakaway Brae reverse climb. As we finally catch up to Mr. Aaargh, I should point out that this is not a particularly long climb or that steep. However, as it comes almost right after you've already made a pretty hard effort, it can still produce separation. And that is unfortunately what happens here. Brian and Jan push hard, but they're unable to close the gap, and as we go over the top, they are now around 6 to 7 seconds behind, and the gap keeps growing from there. To be fair to Brian and Jan, they kept putting in a huge effort trying to get back, but the Buteos team kept the pace high enough in the main group that it was always going to be a tall order. We have now skipped forward slightly to the start of the first major climb of the day, up the Sgurr summit north. The pace had been steady since the Breakaway Brae reverse, but there had not been any more attacks from the Buteos team. I guess now that they had already dropped 2 of our riders, they were saving their effort for the upcoming climb. Immediately, Mr. Kumar, who at around 53 kilos is a very strong climber, sets a high pace. Since nobody else followed, I decided to keep a more steady effort, as I didn't want to blow my doors off right away trying to follow a 6 or 7 watts per kilo effort. I stayed towards the front of the group, and we're all pushing pretty hard here. The lead in the group does change around a bit. My teammate Kalle zooms by for a bit, and then Mr. Kubas, another very strong climber, pushes the pace. At this point I decide to push myself a bit, as I was feeling pretty strong today. And as we start to close the gap to Mr. Kumar, looking back at the footage, I can see that some gaps behind me are now starting to appear. And as we approach the top of the climb, I keep pushing pretty hard and make sure I stay with the Buteos team, who were all around me at that point. At the top of the climb, I can see that we have gapped Mr. Brewer from the Buteos team, but unfortunately also my teammates Kalle and Thomas. As we go down the descent, the Buteos team do not push at all. Clearly they want Mr. Brewer to catch back on, and I am hoping that Kalle is also able to get back to the front group. However, as a lighter rider, he is unable to get on Mr. Brewer's wheel going down the descent, and over the next kilometer or so drops a bit further behind, while Mr. Brewer does catch up to the front group. So now it seems it's a 5 versus 1 situation for the rest of the race.
It's going to be fun!
Fun!
So, this is now an interesting situation that I never found myself in so far in a club ladder race. A 5 versus 1, and all of the other riders are very strong relative to myself. I knew what was likely to come from the Buteos team, and I decided I was going to let a single person go up the road and then try to cover the second attack so that they didn't get 2 people up ahead to easily ride away with first and second place. But I also knew that if they kept attacking one after another, it was going to be very tough indeed. But I was secretly hoping that they were also starting to get at least a bit tired, so perhaps the attacks wouldn't be that frequent. I will speed up the footage here so we can see what happened throughout the rest of the race. As we go up the Breakaway Brae, we all push pretty hard, and I'm following the second wheel, in this case that of Mr. Kubas. We can see that Mr. Haig pushes on and builds a bit of a gap, but as mentioned, I am happy to let him go and stay with the rest of the group for now, and hopefully we will catch up to him a bit later. At this point, Mr. Brewer decides to attack. And while I did say I would try to cover the second attack to make sure, if possible, that they didn't get two riders up front, I decided that since we're already on the second climb, the Sgurr Summit South, and I had put in a bit of a gap on Mr. Brewer on the first climb, I was hoping with a steady effort I would catch him up towards the end of the climb. And as you will see, this is exactly what happens. In fact, we catch Mr. Brewer and Mr. Haig pretty much at the top of the climb. But as we start descending, the next attack comes, this time from Tommy. I'm not sure if he fully attacked, but as a heavier rider, he used the hill to his advantage, that's for sure. And again, I was happy to let him go. I was getting tired at this point, so I needed to rest as much as possible for the final couple of kilometers against the other 4 riders in the Buteos team. As we approached the Clyde kicker, I knew I would have to put in a dig here, as this was likely where the attack would come, and I wanted, if possible, to stay with the front riders here, as otherwise getting a podium spot would be very unlikely. I hit my feather, probably a bit too late now looking back at it, and I push up hard the last bit of the kicker. A small gap unfortunately opens to Mr. Haig and Mr. Kubas, and I give everything I have over the next bit of the course to close this down. But I do catch him up, and I remember seeing that I now had a gap to the other riders, which gave me a bit of confidence. Looking back at the footage, I noticed that Tommy was actually not that far in front at this point, but I have to admit that at the time I wasn't thinking about catching him at all. As we make the turn for the final straight, I have nothing left in the tank, but I dig deep and put in a bit of a sprint in the last 200 meters. I am unable to keep up with Mr. Haig, but I do manage to stay ahead of Mr. Kubas, and I roll over the line in 3rd place. Looking at the results, we can see that Tommy did hold on for the win. Congratulations to you, sir. Great effort. And Mr. Haig finished 2nd, with me in 3rd place. Then we had the 3 other Buteos riders, with the rest of the Bifrost riders coming in after that. So, as we predicted at the start, this was indeed a pretty one-sided affair. But I am happy I was able to spoil the Buteos party, at least somewhat, finishing in 3rd.
Party pooper.
Looking at the numbers, I thought it was quite interesting that I actually had the 2nd lowest watts per kilo average of all of the riders in the race, and quite a bit lower than all of the Buteos riders. I guess I must have ridden somewhat efficiently. This also shows that the other Bifrost riders, even though a bit behind in the end, kept working hard throughout the whole race, so chapeau to them for this effort against very tough opposition. Now, as usual, a few final thoughts on the race before we wrap this up.
Okay, a few thoughts as usual. Now that I finally managed to pick myself off the floor here. Really tired at the end there, was on the limit for sure. Really good race, really enjoyed it. It was, as I expected, a bit one-sided with pretty much a 5v1 for about half the race. Really unfortunate, one of my teammates almost made it over the hill, the first climb, and if he would have made that, he would have stuck with us, at least for a good portion of the rest of the race, but it was not to be. And I think the Buteos team were trying to shake me. They kept sending a rider up. I didn't bite. I thought if they're that strong, they can go. And I tried to cover the 2nd person the whole time. Seemed to work out. And in a 5v1 situation, I'm pretty happy with how I rode that. And to finish third out of those 6 with 2 Category A riders and 3 really strong B riders in the other team, I'm pretty happy with that. Felt pretty strong today. I wasn't really on the limit until the very end. Covering some of the attacks wore me out a little bit, but I still had a bit of punch in the end, although I think Mr. Haig got me on the sprint. He was just too strong for me there. But overall, you know, congratulations to the Buteos team. Much stronger than us today, so chapeau to you guys. And well fought from our team as well. They kept on plugging away even though they're a little bit further behind, so chapeau to you as well. A bit of rest now, and then we do time trial again on Friday in FRR. I hope I'll see you a lot of you guys there. I think I'll end it there. Time for a shower. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Zwift, and I'll see you in the next one.